know before Q3. For the best webinar viewing experience, you'll want to adjust the slider that appears to the right of the slide on your screen. We encourage you to submit any questions in the Q&A window found in the bottom panel of your screen throughout the webinar, and we'll save some time for questions at the end. We'll also send out a recording of today's webinar on Friday. Today's discussion will be hosted by Instapage VP of Marketing, Emily Jacobs, with our special guest, Joel Premack, community consultant and host of the Community-Led Growth Show, the podcast, and Misha Bokikio, digital content marketing program manager at VMware. So let's get started. Over to you, Emily.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm very excited to be here today to discuss some of the latest trends fellow marketers can use in Q3 and beyond. I'm thrilled to be joined by our two guests, Joel and Misha. Joel, if you could just take a moment to introduce yourself to our audience and share a little bit about your areas of expertise.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emily. Happy to be here today. So hi, everyone. I'm Joel Premack. As Kelly mentioned, I'm currently a community consultant and a host of the Community-Led Growth Show. Before that, I worked in two previous community roles, one at Sales Assembly, and most recently, I was at Lattice, the HR tech company, on their social and community team. And I'll pass it over to Misha to introduce herself.
Thanks, Joel. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. And thank you, Kelly. You totally nailed the name. As she said, I'm Misha. I am currently a digital content marketing program manager at VMware. Prior to that, I spent several years in MarTech land. So I was at companies like Goldcast, which is a digital event platform, and Wistia, that is an event marketing platform. And then I also did some time over in agency land as well today. So again, very excited to talk about some trends that marketers need to know for Q3.
Amazing. We are so excited to have both of you here. So we always love to kick our webinars off with a poll. So our first one is, as of today, do you think your Q3 strategy incorporated emerging marketing trends? So no, it feels a bit basic. No, but I haven't started planning Q3 yet. Yes, up to date on trends. And yes, we have a strategy, but I don't know if we're optimized for the latest trends. So Joel, Misha, how about you guys?
I'll go first. So it's really easy for me. No marketing plan because I'm a consultant.
Right.
So I kind of dodge this bullet. But I'm sure Misha has many more thoughts than I do on this.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, I think our team feels pretty good. We do pretty long-term planning. I work in events, so we have to plan events really far in advance. But there's always that element of it where you have to be, to a degree, very reactive and responsive to what's happening in the market, what's new and exciting. So feeling good about it, but also prepared for that to change as we get closer to Q3.
Why did you do all those pivots, right?
Oh yeah. It's like the theme since 2020 is just like on your toes.
For sure.
We need like a GIF from Friends of pivot. That's like the essential like statement for marketers since 2020.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it looks like we have a strategy, but we don't know if we're optimized for the latest trends, which feels fair. And the one after that is no, it feels a bit basic. So I think that means y'all are in the right place. We're excited to kick it off. Joel, do you want to get us started?
Yeah. So, okay. We are starting off today with community-led growth as trend number one. Passion of mine, dear to me. So with that, we are starting off this section with a poll. So in 1 second, it'll be launched. And we're essentially just asking where you are and your organization is in your community building journey. Do you have a community and you're already seeing business impact from it? You have one, but you're not sure if it's producing results that impact your business. Your community curious, as I described, you're like, I want to dip my toes in it, but you haven't fully invested into it. Or have you tried it and it didn't go well, and you're like, I feel a little bit burned. We need some time and space. Maybe we'll circle back to you. Let's give it a couple more seconds for everyone to vote, and then we'll flip around the results. See where everyone lands. Okay, so the vast majority is community curious, but we do have a good number of people who have communities. It looks like 40% have communities and 25 are supporting and seeing outcomes supported by it. So that's awesome. 15 have communities, but aren't clearly tying the impact to the business. So with today's session that I'm leading, we're going to dive into that. So there are 3 typical types of communities that I see in B2B outside of developer relations. It's a little bit more technical. I try and not go there because that's not where I like to play in B2B land. But here are a few companies that do community exceptionally well, in my humble opinion. And we're going to kick it off today with communities of practice. So a community of practice is one that's open to anyone that has a shared similar trait or characteristic, and it's focused on helping their members be successful in their careers. And so examples of these are the Arboretum for social media professionals, powered by Sprout Social, Resources for Humans, powered by Lattice, where I previously worked and supported that community. I love it, shout out. And then Sales Hacker, which was acquired by Outreach. And then I also want to call out that a really interesting thing about a community of practice is that it doesn't matter if members are customers, where they're located in the world or the industry or anything else. It just matters that they share that same interest and common trait to create an amazing experience. The business outcomes that a community of practice support are typically brand awareness and market perception, co-created content with members. So examples of this would be events, articles, videos, etc. Templates are also a great one. We're seeing a lot of templates coming from PLG-based companies too. And then the core top business outcome is supporting new sales or new logo sales and growing ARR for your business. If you're in the B2B world, that's where I come from. So I'm using a lot of B2B language. So apologies in advance. Next slide, we are going to jump into community of customers. So I think about a community of customers as a space dedicated to connecting customers with each other. And it's really focused on, one, bringing advocates together and like creating a space for them to celebrate their love for your company and product. And then 2, also helping them connect with peers to share best practices, tips and tricks. So it's this idea of product education, but it's not formal. It's from your peers. And then the last piece I would highlight here in the definition that I'm giving for it is it's really important that your members are successful, but you're infusing your product into them being successful in their role and in their organization today. I think an amazing example of a community of customers is Sendoso's community. Shout out Leslie, you do an amazing job. And then some of the business outcomes that this type of community would support are best practices content, how-to, tips and tricks, things like that. Advocates for customer marketing is very important, as well as customer advisory boards or CABs. And then now that big metric, renewals and NRR growth. Again, we like to impact dollars because that's how then we, 1, protect our jobs, 2, we get budget and buy-in to continue to invest resources and people into our programs. And then the third one is a community of product. So for me, a community of product is really focused around customers, whether they're admins or end users, anyone, be successful with your product. And there's always this element of resolving product specific questions through the community's conversational space. And I mean by conversational space, whether it's Slack or a forum like Discourse or Insided, etc. It's really this peer-to-peer, typically seen helping. And examples of companies with a thriving community of practice and user group programs and active forums are HubSpot, Copado, and Splunk. Some of the business outcomes that they typically support are customer education that's formally delivered, and it's from the company to members, aka customers and end users, admins, to increase adoption. There's product ideas, not votes, because we want to hear from our customers, not just like, oh, you like that? That's cool. It's a nice like little vanity metric, but we want the meat. We want to hear the real words from our users. And then PACs, or product advisory councils, they're very similar to the idea of a CAB, but they're typically seen when companies are looking to expand breadth of product and explore new areas. And then the final one is support ticket deflection, excuse me, oh my goodness, and how that supports saving efforts for the company. Again, a bottom line core business metric. And then with that, we're just going to hop over to the last slide, I believe, in here, and just share a few things about how, one, a community can really be thought of as a product. And if community is the product, think about then all of the benefits or programs you're offering to members, whether they're events or user groups or meetups, articles, newsletters, etc. All is the features of it. And then you can measure each one of those in terms of adoption per se by things like NPS, subscribers, participation, and attendance rates. And then always, always, always collect feedback to keep iterating and building with your members so they feel connected and invested into the success of the community too. And then the last thing I will say here is I personally am very bullish on community right now, because it's an amazing, amazing way to get first party data, as we're seeing what some people, I will say, have kind of felt is like the death of third party data and cookies and all of that. Community is an excellent way, and especially a community of practice, to get first party data. And so with that, that wraps up trend number 1 section on community led growth. And I'm going to pass it over to Misha.
All right, thank you so much, Joel. Really appreciate the way you laid out those different types of communities and also kind of the business outcomes. I think it's hard, especially for folks that maybe are just getting started or their company doesn't have one, to kind of figure out, what realistically are we trying to get out of this? And maybe it's not just sales and revenue. That can be great, but there's so many other things a community can accomplish. So just heads up, if you don't follow Joel on LinkedIn, go follow him, because he's like the #1 person that you should follow for all things community. So quick plug there. But I am here to talk to you about trend number 2, which is in-person and digital events. There we go. So setting the stage. I know a lot of folks are very bullish on getting back to in-person. We had a few years of only digital and virtual events. So I know a lot of folks are like super excited to get back to in-person. I feel you. I was in that bucket too. But, realistically, the current landscape paints a little bit of a tough picture, right? So one of my last projects that I worked on at Goldcast, which again was a digital event platform, was a attendee sentiment report where we went out to B2B event attendees and asked them like, hey, what do you want out of events moving forward? What are your challenges? What do you like about digital? What do you like about in person? And it painted a pretty clear picture, especially from a business perspective. So 66% of businesses are restricting travel budgets. This was from about 6 months ago, so I guarantee that has gone up. Companies are feeling the squeeze, and things like travel budgets, learning and development budgets, those are just oftentimes the first thing to go. Additionally, 80% of business leaders are actively encouraging folks to use digital or use maybe a hybrid where they can commit later if they want to go in person as alternatives to committing to the big keystone conferences. And then additionally, I thought this one was particularly interesting. 75% of people believe that large-scale events are going to become less common. I think there's some massive events, you think of like the Dreamforces of the world, where I don't think those are going anywhere, but they're likely going to change and evolve. And I don't necessarily think a big in-person user conference is right for every company. So just think about that. A lot of people are starting to kind of change their preferences as, work from home and all these things have evolved. And then again, 81% of attendees are more willing to commit to something if it does have that digital or even a hybrid option where maybe they can decide later. So times are tough. And really what I wanted to share today was just 3 ways to rethink events. So some of these ideas are specific to in-person, some are specific to digital, but really just trying to get folks to think outside of the box with your event programming and maybe try something new this year. So the first way you can rethink your events is to do a roadshow series. So these have been around for a while, but I've definitely noticed a lot more companies doing roadshows, and it's because they work right now. So there's typically smaller scale, maybe one day in a city, and you can strategically choose your locations, right? Like where your top accounts, your top customers, top prospects are, but really smaller scale, more budget friendly, more convenient for your audience. So it's a lot easier for folks to commit to maybe a couple hours out of office where they can commute into the city for the day versus having to book travel and take 3 or 4 days off and coordinate all of that. And then it is a more intimate environment. So one of the other interesting stats we got out of that report was that the #1 reason people love in person isn't necessarily the content, it's to connect with and network other like-minded people. So, yes, have, a good speaker or good content, but know that the real draw is getting other people together so that they can, again, connect and network. So then I think we have some examples of ones that I've seen even in just the past few weeks. I have a lot of experience in MarTech land, so these are all going to be marketing tech companies. But if you're curious about this, reach out to some folks at these companies and say, hey, we saw your event mentioned, what worked, what didn't, any advice? So this one was the Efficient Growth Tour. It was kind of a launch for this new company, Audience Plus, and then they teamed up with Clearbit and Mutiny. And then the next slide, we'll see the other thing I really like about this approach is there's so much social proof happening. Like people are so excited to hear great thought leaders, get together, have great conversations. So this is just, a screenshot somebody posted on LinkedIn just about the event. You can see their tag people, but it's, a nice professional setup, and they've got, a small intimate group of people. And I think they had 3 or 4 cities on their list and kind of hit them. And then they did pair this one with a large digital event after, which is of course an option too if you want to keep some of the intimacy of in-person, but also reach a larger global audience. So that was one example. GTM Made Simple Roadshow. This one is with Sangram and his company, GTM Partners. You can see they have a few other partners that he works with looped in there. This one they do have on their website, but they're marketing it as, invite only, exclusive, kind of showcasing it as a very curated group of B2B marketers. So you can see they have a couple cities are coming to Boston in a couple weeks. So if you happen to be in Boston in a few weeks, let me know. And then again, with the social proof, I saw a lot of people posting, we got together, look at this, how much fun we had, just kind of the power of the social proof of these in-person engagements. And the third example was actually Joel flagged was Lattice is doing what they're calling a people strategy group workshop. So you can really position these however you like. You don't have to call it a roadshow. It can be a workshop or really any way you want to brand that. But they've got, they're going to, again, these curated group of major cities. It looks like the registration might be kind of open to anyone who wants to attend, which is great. And then the next slide, I really like this picture because they had some, kind of cute exclusive swag for people that did take the time to come out for the day. So I love that they were able to showcase that as well. All right, option number 2 for how you can rethink your events, pop-up events. So the idea here is that either instead of or in tandem with sponsoring a big event, I'm just going to keep picking on Dreamforce, but your Cisco Lives, your Dreamforces, those sponsorships are very pricey. And that might not be an option for you this year. Completely understandable. And honestly, a lot of times these big sponsorships can be really hard to tie back to a direct ROI. And as marketers are continually under pressure to report on those metrics, again, a big sponsorship might not be a good fit for you this year. So what you can do instead is host an event around the big conference. And this works again, sponsorships, super expensive, hard to track down the ROI. A lot of booths look and feel the same. There are some companies who definitely do a better job at this than others, but by and large, you walk into a trade show like room, it feels like a trade show. So it's just really hard to differentiate and like capture and keep attention and start conversations with people. And then you can also partner with other folks that kind of share your ICP where you're not competing with them, but B2B marketers obviously have a pretty extensive tech stack. So leaning on some other partners to kind of split the cost of these types of events. And I'll show some examples here as well, again, of some that I've seen just in the past few weeks. This one, I said past few weeks, this was actually last year. I'm hoping they do it again though, because it was really fun. So Chili Piper spearheaded the Inbound SaaS Awards. It was around HubSpot's Inbound event. You can see they had like 15 partners that sponsored this engagement, and they rented out Trillium, which is a big brewery in Boston. It's walking distance to the conference center. And they hosted an awards ceremony. So they had, and you can go to the next slide. I have some pictures because again, I actually went, it was so much fun, but they had this red carpet moment with like a backdrop where people were taking pictures. They had tons of giveaways for registrants, like fun stuff not related to their products. They had like kind of just interstitial content throughout. So every 30 minutes, they would do like a short presentation or give away an award or something. But it was really just a couple hours of like chilling at a brewery, meeting other B2B marketers. The energy was super high. And what I particularly appreciated about this one was that I didn't get blown up with 15 thank you emails after. They were very mindful of the registrant's data. A registrant is not a lead. And I really appreciated that. Again, I didn't get 15 people trying to sell to me after this because that's not what the point of the event was. All right, and then we have the Forrester pre-party. This one was just a few weeks ago. It was Forrester had a big B2B marketing conference, and Allie is here. Hey, Allie. So it was Metadata, SQL, and Notch, and they rented out a rooftop bar in Austin and had a little get together. So I think the next slide, again, the social proof of these things. They had look at how fun that looks. They're hanging out on a rooftop. They've got the giant Jenga set for people. So again, just something get people, kind of away from the hustle and bustle of the conference floor and give them just an open space, casual space for them to connect. I thought that was a really good example. And the last one, have to give a shout out to Goldcast. They did something that I thought was really creative. I was not involved in planning this at all, but shout out to the team there. They went to RSCA, which is like a tech conference, not at all involved with like marketing. And they sent people there and they had these handouts for people. So Goldcast, event marketing platform, their target audience is event marketers. So they actually went around to all the sponsor booths and invited the event marketing professionals to this pamper party where they rented out a nail salon like around the corner from the conference center like all day and invited people to, hey, you're working this event. I'm sure you're super tired. Come have a glass of champagne and like a mani-pedi on us. And it worked out so well. And I thought this was just a really creative execution. And I know a lot of folks kind of lean into like, oh, let's do a happy hour or something. But this to me was just, they nailed the audience of this and the outreach. And again, just something a little bit different. And you can see it kind of went like mini viral on LinkedIn. We had a lot of people posting like, wow, like Goldcast won this event. They totally nailed it. So again, just kind of like, this is stuff you can't really track, but it tells you it's working. All right, the last way you can rethink your events this year, digital campaigns. So this isn't necessarily like a new concept, but it works. And I would love to see more companies lean into this style of execution. So why they work, you have one cornerstone event. It may be a digital summit. It may be just a webinar. It might be a webinar series, however you want to plan your kind of event moment. But you use that and then create tons of additional ancillary content from that single event. This can also be, if you are using a digital first approach, a little bit easier to connect those digital dots in terms of showcasing your impact. So your pipeline, your revenue, your ROI, again, a little bit easier, especially if you have, a tech stack that plays nicely together. And then it just shows a greater impact than if you have kind of all these teams working on different campaigns in a silo. This is one way to kind of combine those efforts, save some time, and also have a bigger impact. And then I'll just walk through quickly an example of this. So when I was at Goldscast, we did a campaign called Webinar Week. It was 5 webinars in 5 days. And we loosely aligned this with a product launch. We were rolling out a new webinar package, so we wanted to create some buzz around it. And then, we wanted to do this event series that were just like short, snackable types of events. So we planned 5 days where we broke down our literal webinar process that we used at Goldscast. So it was kind of a behind the scenes look at how we planned and thought about our webinars. But then from that, we created a B2B benchmark report. So we used our own platform data, super powerful stuff. If you have a platform, please do a report on your data because nobody else has that. So we did that and planned it around the launch of this event. We created over 15 additional blog posts that were on topics around webinars. And then we had promotion and distribution across all of your channels. So social, email, we looped in some partners and influencers. We did some paid behind this. And it was really this giant effort at the end of Q4 that helped our team actually hit our pipeline and revenue goals for the year, which was really exciting. And I think I dug up the numbers. There we go. So I checked this. We did this event the big campaign in December. I started in VMware in May. So it was really cool to see, you typically have a window after a campaign of when you'll actually look at the data, and then sometimes you move on to other things. But I checked before I left, and it continued to get people in and have attribution, which was really cool to see. So 85 opportunities, 337,000 sourced pipeline, 1.4 million total attributed pipeline. So again, you can see that, this one big moment can have a continued impact for months on end after. And this is, as much as I work in events, I am a content marketer at heart. So I love these really long-term evergreen plays that can continue to have an impact and momentum long after. I think that was it. All right, so now on to number 3.
Thank you so much, Misha. That was great. So yes, trend number 3, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite buzzword of the moment, which is AI. Very exciting, and how we've been using it to for both organic and paid marketing efforts. But first, I want to kick us off with a poll. Put that up, please. There we go. So how much are you currently incorporating AI into your marketing workflows? So not at all, not much, but we're interested. Some, you're experimenting, or all the time, we're AI wizards. I will say that at Instapage, we've been encouraging our team members across the organization to incorporate AI into what they're doing and start testing different tools and applications. Even in our own product, we've started using AI content, and we have a new program coming out very shortly called AI Experiments, which is very exciting. So, we also, even from a day-to-day, we use AI note takers in our meetings. It's been amazing. We've been testing out different ones, but you sit in a meeting, you invite the AI note taker, and at the end of the meeting, you get this beautiful summary of the meeting with action-oriented meeting summaries and next steps, and it's wonderful. So that's how we've been using it, but let's see what everybody else says. All right. So sounds like we're experimenting or not at all, or kind of in it. So it doesn't seem. A couple of you are AI wizards, which is amazing. So please don't fall asleep during my presentation, but I will be sharing, again, how we've been using it in both paid and organic. So we'll kick it off with organic. This actually links back kind of to what Misha was talking about with content repurposing from events. We've been using AI tools to help us with our content repurposing. So a really good example of that is a webinar, right? So what we will be doing for this webinar that I'm speaking in at the moment, and then also what we've done with our previous ones, the example on the screen is funny enough, the one that we did on AI a couple months ago. But I would call like the webinar itself our pillar asset, right? And this, and our team can then utilize a variety of AI tools to transform that webinar into several satellite assets or bite-sized assets. So our audience can pick and choose the format, like that, how they want to consume the information. So for example, we do a blog. We use AI transcription to get the content for the blog. We create mini video clips from the webinar with a tool called Canva. These are really useful for our social channels and for audiences that just prefer that shorter form content. For infographics, again, using AI, we synthesize the webinar transcript that highlights key takeaways, key data points, that we then use to create the outline for the infographic, so we can get ourselves started that way. And then we even utilize AI to assess the optimal time to promote all of these assets, the satellite assets, the main pillar assets. Using AI to help build these satellite assets means that the research, the budget, the thought leadership, the time, the effort that goes into creating these wonderful webinars doesn't just have to be enjoyed like in this platform at this time. The information can be consumed by anyone, however and whenever they prefer. All right, and then we're going to pop over to paid. So the paid use case we're going to talk about is programmatic advertising. So leveraging AI into your programmatic advertising seems like the obvious choice, right? There's so much data that goes into it already. And so AI can clearly help us synthesize that data. So first, for example, we use it with keywords. AI can produce keywords and search terms beyond how you've historically used. It helps you think outside the box. Like you just throw a bunch of things in with a bunch of different prompts, and you see what you get. Sometimes you get things that are a little like too out of the box, right? But you also get some really cool ideas to be able to test with. And that's what's really important. It's like, keep it fresh, make sure that you are describing it how the world is describing it, right? And testing is a really great way of like seeing what should stick and what, you can put aside. Audience identification. So AI-powered predictive modeling can help marketers identify the most relevant and responsive audience segments for their campaigns, which will get you obviously a better ROI, better ROAS. So by analyzing the vast data sets, AI algorithms can uncover hidden patterns that we, as mere humans, may just overlook or not see. So this allows us to target our advertising efforts towards specific demographics, interests, behaviors, and maximizes our chance of reaching and engaging with the right audience. And then finally, we talk about advertising placement. AI can actually optimize the placement of advertisements by analyzing real-time data and making instantaneous decisions for us. The AI algorithms assess factors like website context, user behavior, ad performance to determine the optimal placement for each impression. This ensures that the ads are shown in the most relevant and impactful positions, which of course increases our likelihood of capturing the user's attention and also getting those conversions that we all want all the time, right? Makes our campaigns powerful. So one big note I will say about AI, I feel like this is very important to note, is AI is not magic. It doesn't create things for you, right? It's all based on your inputs and what you put into it. So it can check your blind spots. It can show you something you didn't think of. It can supplement your own creativity, but it will always, I'll say this confidently now, it will always need a human touch. You need someone to look at it. Does that actually make sense? Does that sound crazy? That's our job as marketers. It's like, yes, use those tools. They're there to help you. They're here to supplement. But you are definitely an important part of that whole environment. All right. So that's it on AI. Now, Joel, Misha, and I kind of have a couple more tips, tricks, tweaks that we think would be kind of easy pivots to make as we go into Q3 and beyond. So just a couple strategies to go over. The first one came from me. I said, add more video, and you're gonna have to excuse me because I'm going to refer to exact statistics here. So according to HubSpot's State of Video Marketing, an all-time number of marketers, 92%, told us that they get a positive ROI on video content, up from 87% in 2022. 92% get a positive ROI. That's amazing. 96% of marketers agree that videos have helped increase user understanding of their product or service. And 70% of marketers who polled in 2022 who don't currently use video as a marketing tool told us they plan to start in 2023. So I think that's, the trend for video. It's been around for obviously a very long time, but it continues to grow. I think that's how a lot of people prefer to consume their information. I know at Instapage, we use it a lot with like product demonstrations, creating the videos for that. Case studies, like having people like actually record their feelings and, their reactions to what we're doing. And then even this webinar, again, like we're going to slice and dice this thing and use those little videos to use like in all of our social platforms and just kind of get more eyes on the thought leadership we're bringing. Another note, preparing for Google Optimized Sunsetting. Quick plug, we did do an entire webinar on Google Optimized Sunsetting and what that means for marketers a couple months ago. So if you look in our resources section, you'll be able to grab that. But with Google Optimized Sunsetting, that means a lot of marketers, the way that they have been depending on testing, on A/B testing landing pages and websites, that part is disappearing. So make sure that you have another tool, a quick plug, Instapage does this, but a good tool that will help you A/B and test your copy, images, layouts, everything that you need that engages with your audience and what's working and what's not. You need to be careful not to lose that ability. All right, Joel, I think you have the next ones.
Yes. So thank you, Emily. My couple big ones are, one, make sure before you start actually executing on what you think is a community strategy or program, like you actually identify the business outcomes you want it to support, to then make sure that everything you do down from there ultimately rolls back and you always are measuring things against that big business outcome. Super important. And I'm going to say this on the flip side too, you want to do experiments and test things maybe before investing in especially your own owned community. But equally, if it's not someone's full-time job, then it's no one's job. This is very much the case in community. So invest in a full-time person, but make sure there are clear business outcomes for that person to be impacting against their experiments. So I wanted to just highlight that. And then lastly, regularly report on the metrics and community's impact on the business overall against and within your business function, but also organization-wide to help educate and allow other functions to understand what you're doing and how potentially their goals can work together with your goals and vice versa. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Misha to wrap us up.
Yeah, mine is short, simple, to the point. Definitely get creative this year. I think the Goldcast RSA example totally nails it. They understood their audience and they created a very compelling event and offer for those folks. And also, while you're getting creative, keeping in mind the bottom line and leaning into event formats that you can deliver and report on a clear impact, a clear ROI. I do really appreciate that events can be really fun places to play and they're very experiential, but this year might not be the year to go all in on something completely new and outside of the box. So stick to what works and stick to something that you know that you can showcase your impact and your worth.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. This has been great. I love like working out with other marketers. It makes me very happy. So I hope that everybody here found the session informative and helpful for your Q3, Q4, and beyond planning. Our hope is that by leveraging these trends that we outlined, you can improve the effectiveness of your marketing strategy and boost your team's success, which is what we all want and need. As I mentioned, Instapage is a great partner for marketers who want to bring these trend-driven campaigns to life. If you're interested in trying us out, you can go ahead and scan this QR code and get a 14-day free trial. I believe we have some questions from the audience. So Kelly, do you want to go ahead and get us going?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Misha, Joel, and Emily. Really great insights. I know I'm personally feeling a bit inspired to get started on my Q3 planning. So Emily, I'm going to get that meeting scheduled for.
Oh, no.
Awesome. So yeah, we've got some great questions and we've got some time to dive in. So let's get started. Misha, I'm going to kick this first one over to you. So for events, can I integrate online and offline touch points to create a seamless customer journey?
Ooh, that is an interesting one. I will preface this. I have some thoughts for sure, but I strongly identify as like a content marketer that happens to work in event marketing. But with that, just some ideas around kind of connecting in person and digital. Definitely communicating with folks before and after your event. So whether it's digital or in person, don't just send a confirmation email and then like a see you there, and then they show up and then they leave and that's it, right? Like you really want to think about programming it well before and well after the event to keep those conversations going. I think Joel, and you might have some thoughts here, but if it makes sense, depending on what type of event you're hosting, whether it's digital or in person, but like tying folks into a community afterwards, where they can, again, connect with their peers and keep the conversations going, keep a pulse on what's happening with your company. So definitely think that could be a good avenue to funnel folks to. And then, if you're trying to really connect in person and digital, I think you can pair different types of events, right? Like you can do one large in-person conference and then do some regional road shows around it. You can do a large in-person event and then do a digital series after, like a webcasting series. You can do a large digital event and then do some localized road shows. Maybe you want to try like a true hybrid experience. So there are lots of different formats that you can kind of combine to, again, kind of connect those dots between the in-person and digital as well.
I'm 100% going to piggyback on what Misha said. Yes, community is a great place to point people to after an event. No matter the type of event, I would 100% always agree with that, as long as it makes sense for the type of community your organization is building. That's the caveat. Or like asterisk right next to that. Second thing is that I'm a huge fan of doing is also doing like a PS in the thank you email or RSVP, or here's the on demand, and a PS of something that's like value add and helpful and relevant to that person. So whether that's using your marketing automation platform to personalize via like segments and saying, hey, marketers who are VP and above are going to get this line. Marketers who are managers and directors are going to get this line. And then ICs and everyone else is going to get this line. That's a great scalable way for marketing tech to support your programs and do something that's more or less personalized to a degree at scale. So I would definitely encourage people to be thoughtful about like not just saying, hey, here's the on demand or thank you for coming and saying goodbye, but saying like what's next and recommending something that you think and hopefully you have some data on to show is valuable to this audience as like a well regarded kind of best guess next step in their learning process and like journey overall. So those are my thoughts for it.
It's not goodbye, it's see you later.
100%.
Yeah.
Hopefully very soon in your community, coming to you soon.
Love it. Really great tips there. All right, Emily, I want to hear from you on this one. How do you suggest one go about becoming an expert at using AI in marketing?
An expert at AI. Yeah. So it's really interesting because AI is by nature always like evolving, right? And so really the best thing that you can do is start experimenting, right? Try out different AI tools, different use cases for different AI tools. And expect that not everything will be a major win, right? But you might get a lot of like really good insight out of it. And being comfortable to like talk to people about like, well, we tried this in this way, and this is the result we saw, which like wasn't really what we were looking for, but hey, that means maybe it would be good to use in this other case. I would also say just in general, like crowdsource people, right? Like hop on LinkedIn and be like, how are you using AI tools either in your personal life, professional life, as a marketer, as a salesperson? You'll probably hear a lot of people because everyone's going to solve their own pain points. And so by doing that, it's a good way of kind of like gathering like everything that's going on around you. But again, experimenting, testing, and tracking what you're doing will get you the best results and give you the best like knowledge share of that.
Joel or Misha? Yeah, good. I wanted to give you an opportunity to weigh in as well.
Piggybacking up on this too. I'll say one, also like LinkedIn's great. Also go into like the relevant communities that you're in. Whether you're in like social media, there are social media specific communities too that definitely are talking about AI. There are also broader marketing ones or more niche ones too, depending on your space. I would also encourage you to like raise it there and see what your peers are talking about there. As well as what Misha just shared in the chat, both Jasper and Writer have great communities. I personally am in writers community, Active Voice, and really enjoy it. So shout out to them. My other thing would be is learn and read what people are writing about prompting. Because prompting is really like a new language for us to learn and to therefore better interact with AI to help us get our desired results from it. So we have to better understand how to engage with it before we start to see meaningful results. So that'd be my last thing.
Yeah, the prompts is a really good call out because it's a new way of us thinking to get what we think we want, but then also be willing to be flexible on that, right? So it's a really good call out.
Awesome. All right, we are at time, but I'm going to throw one more question out here. This one's for you, Joel. How can I build and nurture a community of brand advocates to support my growth strategy?
Ooh, okay. So I would say that that falls more into what I described as a community of customers first. Given what I described at the earlier in the webinar. So I'd say like first steps is understanding like what your customers today who are power users and you think like would be good advocates, like what do they want from potentially working with you? Are they looking to better use their tool to help them get promoted? Are they looking and interested in potential ways where they can participate in articles and events to build their personal brand? Are they looking to switch roles? Like there are all sorts of things going on in the world and people have a ton of motivations, but you will never know what people like want from something unless you ask them. And so I would say like always do that and go from there. And you can always start small and saying, hey, we're gonna go like alpha test just like a product and say like 5 people before you do a beta test of 20 other people. Like you're allowed to do this kind of stuff and really think about it like a product. So those would be like my off the top of my head, like thoughts on that. Again, tying it back to business impact always. One great way, I'm going to steal it from Leslie, sorry, Leslie, is that they do group reference calls. So they have a couple advocates actually do a group reference call and it's only the person or 2 people who are advocates with a handful of potential customers. And then only Leslie is allowed on the call from Sendoso, no one else. No one else from marketing, no one from sales, no one from any other function, just those 3 people invited and the guests. So I think that that's a clear, obvious way for people to see the impact of a program like that. Super direct and very effective from what I hear too. So those are my thoughts. I'd be curious what Emily and Misha have to say on this too.
I'm sorry, you should go ahead.
I was going to say, like, you keep shouting out Sendoso, which I agree. They do such a great job at community. So just +1, I love, the example that you shared. And I think you are, once again, the expert here on the community.
Yeah. I was going to say, what do we add to Joel talking about?
I know.
That's not exactly what he already said, because he had said it to me before and I retained it. So.
Well, really collaboration here. Wonderful feedback, wonderful insights. That is all the time we have, all that we have time for today. But thank you again for joining us online, and thank you so much again to you, Misha, Joel, and Emily for the really great discussion and tips and tricks. If we didn't get to your question, we'll be sure to connect with you via email, and a recording of the webinar will be sent out by the end of this week. We'll also share a copy of our ebook, 10 landing page best practices for 2023. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, and have a great week.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.